Death by overwork is the biggest talking point on social media after the tragic death of a 26-year-old employee of Ernst & Young made headlines yesterday. After massive outrage, the Union Labour Ministry has said it has officially taken up a complaint and will be investigating the circumstances that led to the death of Anna Sebastian Periel. A statement by Minister of State for Labour, Shobha Karandlaje, stated that a thorough investigation into the allegations of an unsafe and exploitative work environment is underway. Anna's story went viral after her mother wrote a letter to the company's chairperson claiming that she passed away just 4 months after starting her job at Ernst & Young India. The letter recounted how Anna had been struggling with health issues in the weeks leading up to her death but felt she could not take time off. After Anna died, nobody from Ernst & Young attended her funeral as per her mother. After Mirror Now reached out to Ernst & Young India for a comment, the company claimed that it has acknowledged the loss felt by both the family and the firm and has promised to prioritize employee well-being moving forward. However, the company is still mum on the serious charges of employee bullying and overwork that have been raised in the mother's letter. Our call lines viewers are open. 0120-6634616 is the number that we're flashing on the screens. Do call, share your experiences and concerns. Before that, let me introduce my guests on the show. Lloyd Matthias, Business Executive and Independent Director, is joining us. I'm also joined by Dr. Bhavna Barmi, Clinical Psychologist. Good evening. Namaskar to both of you. Before I come to both of you, we have a few callers already joining us and sharing their concerns. Let me first go across to them. Asha is joining us from Mumbai. Asha, good evening. Thank you very much for calling us at Mirror Now. Do go ahead, share your experiences and concerns.
Yeah, thank you first, Mirror Now, for always carrying such good things. Okay, I'm 80 and you can understand the length of my life and the oppression that I've seen in various fields, in governments, in families. So let us talk of oppression generally. I will talk of Ernst & Young. Ernst should be earnest about their work, about the young, because we as youth join with great hopes. And it's not only the corporate world. Even where your media is concerned, there are young girls staying at Wayanad overnight, 3 nights, 4 nights, struggling to carry the stories to all of us. So oppression is something we need. What we need is mentors. We need buddies. In every place we need this. We need a senior who will give a shoulder, who will take us across. This is lacking in every field. Now, let's talk of the corporate world. I'll give you 2 examples very soon. I was 22 when I joined Taj.
Yeah.
Taj Group of Hotels. JRD was the chairman of the Tata Group. I didn't know anything about JRD. I joined as a lady management trainee, and at 22, with one hotel, we started building. Now, at that point of time, there was no massive training. There was no HR. So we had to carry the whole, should we say, not the burden, the team along with us. We had to train each other. We had to do all that work, and we worked very hard, 14 hours, 18 hours. But there was always a bed in the housekeeping department where we could rest. There were always different, you work from 8 to 4, but you can take a break in between and take the next set of work. This is lacking in all areas. And I'm very, very upset about what is happening with the government. Don't come into corporate and tell us what you should do. Look at what is happening to you. Look at what is happening in the services. We heard of a wing commander and a girl who's screaming that what's happened to her. So it's oppression that we need to stand up
right,
against.
Asha ji, so we are, of course, everybody is shocked. Everybody is also extremely concerned. Yes, and, Asha ji rightly put it that companies should be earnest about their young, and that is something that we all need to be concerned about. But I'm also joined by Dipinder Singh from Patiala. Dipinder ji, good evening. Namaskar. Please go ahead.
Good evening. Once again, thanks a ton to Mirror Now for taking up something which is very topical and very relevant to all of us, young, old, everybody. So I have had the opportunity of working in both the government and private sectors at key positions. And I wanted to share that long hours at work, this is not a prerogative or limited to just the private sector. this happens in government sector also. And I've done so myself. When the need arose, me, my team members, we have rolled up our sleeves and we have worked for 12 to 15 to 16 hours at a stretch. The important thing which I wanted to bring to your consideration and notice is that the key thing is exigency, emergency, urgency. If there is an exigency, then okay, once in a while you can roll up your sleeves and put in that extra bit of stretch. But if this is happening day in, day out in a company, or if those emergencies are happening every day, every week, then definitely something is wrong somewhere, and it reflects about the culture of the company, which is turning toxic. And that has to be stopped, nipped in the bud. Otherwise, it will become normalized, it will become accepted. And then the perpetrators, as well as the victim, they're caught in a vicious cycle, and nobody says no.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, we have normalized this, Dipinder Singh. But thank you very much, Dipinder ji and Asha ji, for calling us at Mirror Now and sharing your experiences and concern. I'm also joined by Aarti from Mumbai. She is, in fact, an HR executive. Aarti, good evening. Namaskar. Please go ahead, share your experiences.
Hi, thank you for taking me on the call for this. I would like to share a common feedback that I would like to share, that the culture today, a work culture today by these large companies, consulting companies and smaller family-oriented companies have become like this: extract as much as you can out of an employee, which is going to give greater and double the profitability. So I do not think the focus anymore remains, as Asha was talking about the resting room and the facilities that she was talking about of employee well-being. That well-being somewhere is missing. I talk this statement with a lot of responsibility because I have been in HR for close to 22 years now, and I have seen the shift that one has seen in the importance of employee well-being. More on, my statement is just reaffirmed when Mr. Rajiv Memani, instead of creating an apology and sending an empathy note, he has given a clarification, which is absolutely shameful. Very, very shameful. And I see that the rounds of WhatsApp messages where people pass very silly and very irresponsible and exploratory messages for HR, right? So HR is something that should have a final say, that go ahead and build up the culture of well-being and help to curb this kind of incidences. But all these big fours, I must say, and I make a statement with responsibility, people can ask me for evidences, I'm willing to give them. I think the culture is absolutely repressed. Absolutely. Not only this, but the big four.
Yes, so the culture needs to be changed. The habits need to be changed. Aarti, thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now and sharing your perspective, your thoughts. Let me go across to my guests on the show, Lloyd Matthias and Dr. Barmi. Continue to be with us. Lloyd Matthias, let me start with you. We heard people, we heard those who have worked, we've heard who are currently working as well. Is it time now for all of us to stop, put our foot down and say, this is it. This is where we stop our professional life. This is where we do not take our work back home. And this is where we tell companies that we are working in, we are not going to be exploited by you.
Thanks for highlighting this very important issue, Shreya. And I must say that some fantastic callers. I think the points of view of Asha ji, Deepinder ji, and of course the HR person were all very valid. I think 2 points I want to bring out first. I think what's happened primarily to the young lady in EY in Pune is very, very sad. And I think nothing can compensate the loss to her parents. But just simply kind of pointing the direction at a firm or the big four, maybe a bit of a generalization. The reason I say so is that the issue is much larger than the big four and EY. I think the issue is a larger issue than corporate India. And as Deepinder ji pointed out, even the public sector needs to take cognizance. There is no room for a toxic workplace. I think that's something that has to be understood. Employees work for an organization, for their salary, for their satisfaction, for doing good work. But I think the moment the workspace becomes exploitative, the moment people are driven to, kind of literally abuse their co-workers or their juniors or their subordinates, I think that's when someone has to draw the line. Having said which, I want to just bring two other points. I think one simply can't legislate against this. I know that today the minister reacted and there is some talk about bringing a bill. I think a lot of these are larger issues that society has to take cognizance of. As a society, we still celebrate overwork, right? People love to
But
say
you know,
that,
Lloyd
I put in
Matthias, I
long
also
hours.
want to mention the fact that it's not just the society. The companies who work here, they carry out their operations in India. Would they do the same things in perhaps the United States or the UK? They have very strict work rules. So there is something that is certainly wrong here when they're operating here in India and they take the liberty of doing what they do here, which is end up extending work hours, giving out heavy work as well during the shifts. But let me get in Dr. Bhavna Barmi on this discussion. Dr. Barmi, a quick answer from you on when we became a generation who were taking breaks, who were taking time out between their work, to a generation who legitimately has ambitions, understandably wants to go high up the ladder, but also wants it at perhaps a faster rate?
That there is a lot of transition in the attitudes of the younger generation, moving at a pace which is beyond the work-life balance norms. Thank you for, first of all, inviting me on the show, and thank you for allowing so many of our viewers to speak to us about their thoughts so openly and so freely, which were all one more relevant than the other. But what I would say is, as a psychologist, I think
Yeah.
it is very important for us as an individual, as an employee, to also understand that what are some of the protocols that I want to maintain for work-life balance and to have a healthy lifestyle. And try and see that within the realms of the quality time that I have, how can I incorporate at least three important things: my sleep, my nutrition, and my exercise. And my exercise can be physical exercise. My exercise can also be mental exercise. So that starts me with a protective shield around myself also. I think the second important thing for us is each
Okay.
person, each employee is different to their own selves. But I think it's very important for us to be self-aware. That means recognize your stress triggers and how they are manifesting in you. If it is physically, emotionally, cognitively, mentally. And early identification allows you to manage it before it escalates. Now, the buck does not stop
Sure.
only at identifying it. Once you identify it, I think it is very important with this awareness to seek support. And the first line of support, I think the company at which you're working should be able to offer to you. It could be, especially for the youth,
Yeah,
the
you know,
seniors,
which is what
it could be the
Aarti, one of our
managers.
callers from Mumbai, was saying, Dr. Barmi, that somehow that transition for employees' well-being has reduced by companies. They're more focused on output, on results, and they're focusing less on employee well-being as far as that is concerned. But we have a few callers joining us on the broadcast. Let's listen into them as well. Sriraj is joining us from Hyderabad. Sriraj, good evening. Namaskar. Please go ahead.
Well, it's not a real good evening. First of all, deep condolences to Anna's loved ones, colleagues and friends.
Yes.
Before jumping to conclusions, let us choose our words very carefully and avoid any hasty blame here. The corporate world faces immense pressure to perform, and every sector feels the strain. Everybody knows about this. While employees acknowledge this pressure under joining and throughout their tenure, the manager in question must be held accountable and a thorough investigation initiated. This said, I think India has witnessed a disturbing rise in student and corporate staff death. To address this, corporations must incorporate counseling services. I think they should also recognize that both male and female employees face immense pressure to meet deadlines. Let me add here very specifically, my son was one of the victims, and he had to change jobs. I'm just adding this here, okay? Often working beyond office hours. It is crucial to provide accessible psychologists. I'm very happy to see in your panel a psychologist, the right approach by Daily Mirror in the corporate sector to support employees' mental well-being. This is extremely important. That's all I can
Yeah,
say.
that is
Deep
very
condolences
pertinent.
to Hannah.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. Our sympathies with, of course, the family of Anna. Thank you very much, Sriraj, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Venkatesh from Delhi is joining us. Venkatesh, namaskar. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really shocking to know that why we require one Nirbhaya or a RG Kar or E&Y incident to happen so that these things come up. Why can't it be a normal norm for working people to have a decent life? Because nowadays we can see that more and more intellectual brains are draining away to foreign countries because they have got certain ethical norms for working. Even in Australia recently, there was that you cannot work after you may need not work after the stipulated time. But here we don't have anything. Everybody, because due to population, due to unemployment, we are taken for granted. I mean, these things should stop, and they should be, because once these things happen, that is taken in news channels or media or everywhere, and we light candles and that's it. But the ministry or the concerned people in the government should make it a norm to see that the working people or the working staff are suitably compensated or suitably in a comfortable position. Because nowadays we can see that only people are workaholic or alcoholic. Yeah, both the things are getting combined and they're losing their family life. I think these things should stop somewhere.
That's right. That's right. So stricter labor laws, stricter guidelines in place, working hours should not be extending. All of these guidelines should be adhered to. Venkatesh, thank you very much for joining us. I'm also joined by Murli, who's calling us from Gurgaon. Murli, please go ahead. Good evening. Namaskar.
Yeah, good evening. My sincere condolences to the family, and really our sympathies are with that family for what has happened. My own 2 cents on this is that this is possibly a single incident. I think we should not again blow it up and make it as if it's happening across the board and then create a scaremongering on site. But at the same time, definitely have to look at what's happening in MNCs. I have myself worked in MNCs and I have seen how things are. A lot of MNCs take a lot of effort to create a conducive atmosphere or environment for the employees.
Okay.
So there may be instances where it may not be a particular project or particular project manager could be putting a lot of pressure. Of course, there are pressures. I think pressure in Indian life for students, it starts from their school days to college days and everywhere. They need to perform, right? So that's something which you cannot walk away from. That pressure is going to be there.
But perhaps, Murli, this is not being blown out of proportion. This is an unfortunate, tragic incident that has happened, which needs to set a precedent, needs to be taken as an example of that such things should not be happening any time and next time. But I'll have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much to all our callers, to our guests on the show, Lloyd Matthias and Dr. Bhavna Barmi, for joining us and helping us get a perspective on this entire situation that has, of course, differing opinions across the country. But one thing is for sure, loss of life and mental health should be, of utmost concern for all employers across the country and the world. Thank you very much for joining us this evening and sharing your perspectives. With that, it's a wrap on the show. Up next is my colleague Ashish Parekh with News at 7.